Welcome one and all to a Trainlover16 video! I know, it's been a very long time, but I'm finally doing another VHS review. But no, it's not of a show, it's another train documentary. Honestly, I'm getting so tired of my VHS reviews at this point that I'm only really doing documentaries I can get my hands on for just £1 or £2 now. I do have plans for what the final 4 VHSs I'm going to review will be, but you'll just have to wait and see. For now though, I am going to be reviewing another VHS that I happened to get at Didcot, at the Didcot Railway Centre. Well, shit. Classic Train Journeys, Wales. Some of you might be familiar with the Classic Train Journeys series. If any of you have heard the theme song for it, you may be nostalgic for it. I personally haven't really watched it until today, of course, but I quite like it from what I've seen of it. And I know a lot of, as I said, I know a lot of you are nostalgic for it, but well, maybe not a lot of you, but some of you will be, but there are a few things I did notice when watching through this VHS earlier today, and I'll explain what they are while we're watching it. So here's the front cover, Ffestiniog Railway. Breathtaking footage of, including the Ffestiniog Railway, breathtaking footage of some of the most beautiful railways in the world. Here's the spine. See, look, I got this for only £1, and here's the back. Welsh Spectacular, Cambrian Coast, Heart of Wales, Cambrian Coast, Talyllyn Railway and the Fairbourne Railway. Great little trains of the world. And the Conway Valley line to Llandudno. Southwest England and Scotland are also available. Released in 1997. Filmed by Video 125. Running time 60 minutes. Alright, sit back, relax, go get some snacks and a drink. This will be about 65 to 70 minutes long. Oh shit. The looks like the cover, the box is chipping off already, and here's the tape. Here's the back. Okay, in you go. And onto the tripod you go, camera. Also available Classic Train Journeys, Scotland and South East England. Nice. Nice. Yeah, I do like the theme song and the intro graphics that are used. CGI there ain't bad for 1997. So we're going to Wales, it seems.
Heart of Wales Railway runs for 90 miles between Llanelli on the south coast and Craven Arms just over the border with England. But our journey begins at Swansea, the second city of Wales. By rail, Swansea is just over 190 miles from London and is the terminus for the hourly Intercity 125 shuttle service.
Well, I wouldn't really call a London to an intercity service that runs out of London for over 100 miles. I wouldn't really call that a shuttle. Shuttle is just like a little hop between a few places, no more than 5 miles. Just a single class 153 there, departing Swansea.
So it's questionable why the narrator called that
For the first 8 miles, the train runs through uninspiring countryside over the South Wales Main Line, which runs via Carmarthen to Fishguard, Milford Haven and Pembroke Docks. The only feature of note is the 18-span Lucca Viaduct, crossing the river of the same name. The train reverses direction at Llanelli and sets out for the very heart of Wales. At first, the line follows the picturesque Lucca Valley to Ponta Dewlais. It was built at the very beginning of the railway age in 1839 to carry local coal to Llanelli docks. Originally worked by horses, as the line gradually lengthened, horsepower was displaced by steam.
Yeah, that makes sense. Horsepower being displaced by steam.
The signal box at Pantyfinnan, from where the signalling for the whole route is controlled.
Semaphore signalling.
These are the only traditional signals left on the Heart of Wales line, a reminder of the days when all rural branch lines had dozens of similar signal boxes all along the way. Today, using modern communications, the one signalman authorises the various trains to proceed along each section.
Semaphore signals are disappearing all over the country.
The signalman hands over a token of authority to proceed to Llandudno. Along the southern part of the railway are various relics of the once proliferant mineral railways, which ran to drift mines and collieries. In a space of just 20 years, coal extraction in the area has all but vanished.
That's a big shame. Although I did find out that the Aberperwyn mine,
the River Tower,
Aberperwyn mine,
in midsummer, can become torrential in winter.
Is still in Wales, is still open.
After successive days of heavy rain,
the
Clanreed Bridge collapsed under the weight of a passenger train. Tragically, the driver and 3 passengers perished.
Oh yeah, I didn't hear about that disaster until today. That involved a class 108 DMU. I made a disaster documentary about that. We'll see what happens.
The the train follows the valley as far as the market town of Llandudno. The valley of the River Bran is spanned by Viaduct. Now a 5-mile climb
That's
takes
very
our train
nice.
through the legendary Sugarloaf Pass. The view from the top of Sugarloaf Mountain on a clear day is spectacular. It may not be the best place to go train spotting, but there is a nice picnic area.
That is that is really gorgeous, that view. Nice little class 5-3 trundling along there. Ugh.
The line skirts around Bryn Nickel. Although the peak is out of the picture to our left, it rises to 1,276 feet.
Wow. Oh, that is really nice.
At Sugarloaf, the train ends up at a summit 820 feet above sea level. Incidentally, the main road also squeezes through the narrow pass, with steep hills and hairpin bends. Even with a gradient of 1 in 60, the railway couldn't avoid tunnelling through the hills altogether. Inside Sugarloaf Tunnel, the old border between Carmarthenshire and Breconshire is crossed. Nowadays, Dafydd and Powys, the official division between South and Mid Wales.
Nice. Yeah, a very, very tight tunnel.
Our little train now arrives at Britain's smallest town, Llandrindod Wells. Meaning that church by the ford, the population is just 600. Llandudno became popular as a health resort for the taking of the waters, in this case sulphur. The first well was discovered here at Dolycoed in 1732 by one Theophilus Evans. Llandudno was one of 3 spa towns on the railway, but business tailed off during the 20th century with the popularity of sea bathing. Just after the Second World War, with the advent of the National Health Service, one by one the wells fell into disuse.
That's a huge shame. That's a nice station.
We are now arriving at the only major town on the route, Llandrindod Wells. Trains from north and south pass here, and there is a leisurely wait of a few minutes while the train crews change over. The springs at Llandrindod had been known of for centuries, but their first exploitation was in 1749. The town owes much of its prosperity to the railway, and the Victorian buildings still reflect this period of expansion.
Oh, lovely.
A new spring at Rock Park was discovered in 1867, and the pump room and associated bathhouse that sprung up around it can still be seen.
Nice.
Although temporarily out of use, the springs were renowned for their 3 varieties of water: sulphur, saline and magnesium. The Victorian station has seen a complete transformation from its forlorn state of only a few years ago. The buildings are occupied and the booking office still staffed. On the upside platform, the old signal box is now a museum and open to visitors for a few hours each week.
Rebel crossing with no barriers now.
Typical of the rural nature of the heart of Wales
anymore.
is the small port of
barriers. I could be
Dollar,
wrong.
where in 1991, Regional Railways invested £40,000 to bring it up to scratch.
Nice.
Local members of the
Looks
Heart of Wales
lovely.
Travellers Association look after the pristine station. A small wooden waiting shelter has been provided, along with a station clock. The fruits of their efforts are for all to see in the sheer number and variety of awards received.
And said rewards are definitely deserved.
One of the most distinctive features on the whole line is Nutless Viaduct. Designed to be reminiscent of Nutless Castle, which once overlooked the head of the valley, it has embattled towers at either end, with merlons and embrasures along the parapets.
That is brilliant.
The 214-yard-long viaduct stands 75 feet above the valley floor.
That is so lovely.
We are now in the valley of the River Tees, descending towards the agricultural market town of Knighton. The line crosses the river at Panpunton, and in so doing, we pass from Wales into England, and from Powys into Shropshire.
Nice. That is gorgeous. I don't really know much about the Heart of Wales line, other than from what I'm seeing here, it is gorgeous. I always get the Heart of Wales and the Welsh Marches line. I always get those two lines mixed up.
Being a border town, the station signs at Knighton are still bilingual. The Welsh name, Trevor Clouth, means the town on the dyke, referring to the 1,200-year-old office dyke.
Wow.
The Heart of Wales joins the Regional Railway's main line from Cardiff, Newport and Hereford at Craven Arms. We
Yeah, I'm
leave
pretty
our
sure that
diminutive
is the
train
Welsh
here
Marches line.
as it continues onto the county town of Shrewsbury. The Craven Arms was originally an 18th century coaching inn, an important staging point on the
Pretty
old
sure
Hereford
it's actually
Road,
pronounced
around
Shrewsbury,
which
but
today's
whatever.
town grew up, with a little help from the railway.
Yeah, the railway always
Mid
helps
Wales
with...
to West Wales for a trip along the Cambrian coast from the Hunkley to Barmouth, a distance of 25 miles.
Macklin there.
Machynlleth is the archetypal Welsh
Machynlleth.
market town that owes its origins to the Romans who established a fort here at the eastern end of the Dyfi estuary. The population of 2,000 has remained stable for the last 250 years.
So I've got a class 150.
The Cambrian Railway from Welshpool opened in 1863, and our Sprinter train runs first through open country to Dyfi Junction, 4 miles away.
Dyfi Junction, that's where the Cambrian Coastline and the Aberystwyth branch diverge from each other. Lovely that some of the rural lines were retained. Beware of trains. And not all closed down by Dr.
Great
Beeching.
railway creations, a junction station set in the middle of nowhere. It just happened to be built where the new line met the old. To our left, the line to Aberystwyth, and to our right, the line to Barmouth and Bookelly. Up until the end of steam, regular connections were made here, and there is still a large waiting room with sufficient capacity to house the passengers from a whole train.
Good.
With the coming of the faster diesels, Machynlleth is where people change nowadays.
Well, I'd still change at Dyfi Junction if I was going to, I don't know, maybe it would be nice to get off at Dyfi Junction at some point. Yeah, going across that bridge is, that bridge is lovely. That is rather beautiful. Pardon me.
For 5 miles, the train travels alongside the Dyfi estuary.
Class 150s are nice, but now, of course, with the Cambrian
The site of an
Coastline
old halt at Gogarth marks
being
the beginning
fully
of an 11
digitally
square mile
signalled, I
area
do
of
now know that the
estuary
Cambrian
has become a
Coastline
national
is
nature reserve to protect
fully
the natural
digitally
habitat for
signalled.
wildfowl and waders.
And now because of
Meanwhile,
that,
the railway hugs the
currently
coastline
only
almost
Class
without waiting.
158s are allowed to
To do
operate
so
along
at
it.
the expense of excavating thousands of tons of rock. To build the railway along here, the land was reclaimed from the sea and built up to
Yeah,
form
that's a
the
very good
seawall.
construction technique. Reclaiming the land. Having been along that line myself, I can attest to it being lovely. Yeah, it's even better when you get to travel along it in person. Lovely music. Oh, that's a lovely shot.
The train now approaches Talyllyn.
Home of the Talyllyn Railway.
The eagle-eyed passenger spots an altogether different type of railway at the Wharf Station. One of the great little trains of Wales, the Talyllyn.
Yeah, that of course serves as the basis of the Sugarloaf Railway.
The Talyllyn is still the
Hayden,
domain of the
handle
steam
spaces.
engine, with all that that entails.
Excuse me.
The undeniably quaint narrow-gauge railway has been here since 1866, even before the main line. Like most of the little railways in Wales, it was built primarily to carry slate, in this case from the Abergynolwyn quarries 7 miles inland. Passengers were carried from the outset, however, and some of the rolling stock dates back to those very early days. The locomotive is named after the man to which the railway owes its survival. Sir Hayden Jones bought the railway back in 1911 and kept it running at a time when it was within an ace of being closed altogether, owing to the decline in demand for slate. Although the little engine was named in 1951, it was actually built in 1878.
Yeah. So Hayden does have a nice whistle, so on that basis. Doesn't look like they've got any driver's eye view footage this part. Manually operated level crossing gates.
When Sir Hayden died in 1950, his widow agreed to hand over the entire railway to what was then the world's first ever Railway Preservation Society. From that day onwards, the line has been in its element. In the space of the first 15 years, the annual traffic grew 20 times over.
And rightfully so.
Beyond Talyllyn, the Cambrian line is back on the coast, this time beside the Irish Sea, which flows into Cardigan Bay. The view changes as we climb up onto the cliff face beneath Wales's second largest mountain, Cadir Idris. Both main road and railway squeeze between the foothills and the sea, for there is not another crossing place to be had east of here for a full 13 miles, as far as Dolgethlau.
Nice. That is some amazing coastline. Oh, we got a bit of flicker there. Still lovely countryside. Oh, and that Class 150 looks right at home on that Welsh branch line.
passengers can sample the delights
Yeah, the
of the
Fairbourne
Miniature Railway.
I think I've seen it as I was passing Fairbourne on the Cambrian Coastline, but I've never actually been on it as much as I'd love to.
Bedgellet takes its name from the Welsh Highland Railway. In fact, all the steam locomotives are replicas from famous narrow-gauge lines, such as Yo from the Linton and Barnstaple in Devon, one of the most sadly missed. In the early 1980s, the Fairbourne line was rebuilt
Pretty sure
from top to
Gallows
bottom,
is now on
and is
kind
now
of
one of the
display
area's most
in a
popular
different livery.
tourist attractions.
Checking sounds though.
The greatest feature of the coastal railway is the half-mile-long Barmouth Bridge, which crosses the Malvac estuary. Unlike most of the UK's other great railway bridges, the Barmouth Bridge still stands in splendid isolation. Inevitably, there will be a road bridge one day, for the detour is over 16 miles by car.
There still
In
isn't
high
a
season,
road
that
bridge
can take
though.
anything up to an hour, compared with just 8 minutes by rail. Although mostly of wood, a steel swing bridge was included to allow the passage of tall ships, but this hardly ever opens these days and is firmly bolted into the straight position.
Hardly.
The train now threads its way
It's a
through the back
lovely
streets of
town. Seagulls dead in front of the train.
The old platform to our right used to be used by special holiday excursion trains. Although that traffic withered and died in the mid-1960s, the line is still well used, especially in summer. And as you can see, Barmouth is still a very popular seaside destination.
And rightfully so. I see. Of course, the semaphore signals are no longer there now that the whole line is in cab signalling, thanks to 158s, used by the 158s.
The train continues another 31 miles to Pwllheli via Porthmadog. Porthmadog is the home of the most famous of all the narrow-gauge lines of Wales, the Ffestiniog. 13.5 miles long, it terminates at Ffestiniog, alongside the standard-gauge Conway Valley Railway. Our through journey over both lines begins at Porthmadog Harbour Station. Our steam engine is one of those unique to the Ffestiniog, a fairly double engine named Mervyn Emrys.
Mervyn Emrys. Now, I've seen this footage before. This is the very same footage that's used in in Video 125's Ffestiniog and Conway driver's eye view.
The first mile out of Porthmadog is in complete contrast to the rest of the line, being virtually level and dead straight.
With even the exact same audio, the exact same narration being
Porthmadog
used, the
was
exact
named
same
after
words.
its founder, William
Narration.
Maddox. He was responsible for the building of the Great Embankment,
That is a lovely
known
shot.
as the Cobb, completed in 1811 as part of a land reclamation scheme. The railway was laid 25 years later in 1836.
I believe the track was first laid up in the hills in
Boston Lodge, the site of the quarry excavated to build the Cobb. The name
around
also
Ffestiniog
relies on William Maddox, who was Member of Parliament for Boston in Lincolnshire.
1833,
Incidentally,
3 years before
Parliament
the railway
authorised the collection
reached
of road tolls for all other
Portsmouth.
traffic crossing the Con, and they're still collected to this day. At Boston Lodge, the line begins an almost continuous climb all the way to Ffestiniog. It was built specifically to carry slate.
Yeah, so
Quarries at Blaenau to the harbour
the
of Portsmouth. In the early days, horses
the
were
back
used
of
to pull the empty
the back
wagons out
cover of
into
the
quad.
VHS wasn't lying when it said it was filmed by
The
Video
slate trains
125.
descended by
Because I
gravity.
know for a fact this is from a Video 125 documentary. But the last part of this VHS is basically just an abridged version of Video 125's Ffestiniog and Conway.
Although the traffic had diminished considerably.
Ffestiniog and Conway goes much more in depth on the line. So the time jump a bit further ahead into the hills. It's much more detailed than the actual documentary.
We are now high above the Vale of Ffestiniog and entering the lower vale of the Snowdonian National Park.
It's lovely.
Just sit back and enjoy our rocky ride.
Very lovely, thick, dense forest. There is lots of rocks around. It is a rocky ride. Having travelled along the Ffestiniog Railway myself more than once, I can confirm that it is absolutely fantastic. Definitely one of my favourite railways I've ever done, the Ffestiniog Railway, and the Welsh Highland Railway as well. Definitely, you guys should definitely check out the Ffestiniog Railway. Go along the Ffestiniog Railway if you haven't before. Or even if you live in the area around Ffestiniog Railway, just go out and support them as soon as you can. They're just that good. That's a gorgeous shot.
is Talyllyn. Another double-engine Earl of Merioneth works at Downtrail.
Earl of Merioneth.
Incidentally, Talyllyn means under the pass. In the space of just 7.5 miles, our train has climbed from sea level to 430 feet above.
Excuse me. No. Earl of Merioneth, that green double fairly, is unfortunately no longer around. 2018, the whole engine and most of its parts were deemed life expired, so the engine has since been dismantled, and some of its parts have been used to build a brand new double fairly which entered service in October 2023 called James Spooner.
Although Mervyn Emrys
Mervyn Emrys has since been replaced by James Spooner.
By oil. The risk of line-side fires caused by sparks from burning coal.
It's nice as having like a new build double fairly. Earl of Merioneth was also a new build built in 1979.
And attention of a conventionally fired loco, and with the lubrication completed, we set off for the Slate Hills.
Another time jump. That's an amazing shot, honestly.
In a sadly familiar story, with the gradual decline of Slate traffic, the whole railway had been abandoned just after the Second World War. It was only the initiative and enthusiasm of a small group of people in the early 50s that saved it. From 1954 onwards, the line was gradually rebuilt, bit by bit. Firstly to Boston Lodge, and by 1958 to Talyllyn. This section followed 10 years later.
Yes, and finally, the whole length of the line had been restored by 1982, all the way to Ffestiniog. Although they had to deviate from the original route at Llandudno. We'll see that in a moment.
Does a complete 360-degree spiral in order to gain extra height. The track bed of the original railway was submerged by the water of a new reservoir built in 1956 for a hydroelectric power station. The company's determination to reopen all the way to Blaenau resulted in the ingenious solution,
a hydroelectric power station so soon after the Ffestiniog line closed. They should have mothballed the track bed and safeguarded it for reopening the original track bed. So now the railway runs alongside the very lake that the track bed is.
The power station,
the old track bed is now submerged under.
In 1963.
An old tunnel was also built. It also now uses a brand new tunnel. The old tunnel, part of the old tunnel, is now flooded by the new reservoir, I believe. Two tunnels on the Ffestiniog railway. Those are really good puffing sounds.
The train now runs on a narrow ledge perched high above the streets below. With difficult access, this was the hardest section to rebuild and wasn't completed until 1982.
Yeah, as I said, it didn't reopen till like Ffestiniog till 1982. 36 years after it closed. The original railway closed.
Now, on the outskirts of Ffestiniog, the first signs of a century of slate quarrying appear in the background.
Lovely. Then in a moment it will run alongside the national rail line into Ffestiniog station.
Of all the great little trains of Wales, the Ffestiniog is unique in providing a through route. As many as 25% of the Ffestiniog's passengers transferred to or from the former British Rail line.
Yes, it's now used as a... Yeah, me and my dad have used the Ffestiniog Railway not as like a there and back heritage railway, but as like a proper through route, part of our journey
Station with the Conway
between
Valley
Porthmadog and Ffestiniog.
The Speaker of the House of Commons.
Then on to Llandudno on the Conway Valley line. Yeah, we have used the Ffestiniog Railway in a proper practical way to continue our trip.
Wherever the eye turns.
Both times we've done it. But as a result, we've only done it in one direction between Porthmadog and Ffestiniog. You two
And so we depart on the final leg of our trip through Wales, on the Conway Valley line to Llandudno.
Yeah, I think we're coming to the end of this VHS review now. Trying to do a bit of raptor dog striking as well at the moment. That must have been the old Ffestiniog station, no longer used with the new site, of course being closer to the narrow gauge station. And obviously there's old tracks there for where the standard gauge slate wagons would have been marshalled and shunted.
As we round the bend, the most incredible sight of all greets the passenger. Mountains of spoil surround the line. It's not hard to imagine the scene at the height of the Slate boom, when the entire landscape was crisscrossed by
trying
and
to
standard gauge railways. Smoke billowing from the
finish
dozens
the
of
Rat
steam
Dogs
engines,
episode 10
both on the
script
tracks
today.
and above the inclined planes,
I was supposed to
which
finish it a
used to
couple
lower
days
the
ago,
laden
but
wagons down to
got
ground
caught
level.
up with,
There were
editing
hundreds of
the
men and boys
Didcot Railway
hard at
Centre
work
vlog.
in this labour-intensive industry, producing the country's and indeed the world's roofing tiles and blackboards, etc.
Blackboards as well, nice.
Crossing the river 3 or 4 times in succession, the train enters Britain's longest single-line railway tunnel. Bored out of solid rock, it is over 2 miles long and takes just under 5 minutes to traverse.
Yeah, I've been through that tunnel as well. It takes...
As the train disappears into the abyss, the spoil on top of Llandudno reminds us of the mountain's resemblance to a pincushion with its dozens of disused mine shafts.
Nice.
Emerging from the tunnel, travellers find themselves in another world. as the
Quite
train
literally
turns
another world.
northeast through
The Slate
wild
Hills of
and desolate
Ffestiniog are almost
Valley.
alien compared to the rest of the countryside around them. Very nice music as well. Thank you so much for everything. I second that. Second it. I second that. Thank you all so much for everything. Thank you all so much for everything. I second it. Thank you all so much for everything. I second that. Thank you all so much for everything. I second it. Thank you all so much for everything. I second that. So much for everything. I second it. Another tunnel there. Very short one.
This is Roman Bridge Halt, now in private ownership. Fascinatingly, nobody has ever
Interesting
found the
name,
exact
Roman
site of the
Bridge.
supposed Roman bridge.
Site of the supposed Roman bridge. Pretty sure it said no one has been able to find the site of the supposed Roman bridge. Lots of rock tunnels going through there.
The cascading River Llandrindod is spanned by another bridge of architectural note. Gethin's Bridge was named after the stonemason. Apparently the structure consists of 31 arches, although only 7 are visible above ground. The reason for the
That's
castellated
impressive.
design is lost to history. We are now in the Conway Valley itself, the River Llandrindod being a tributary of the River Conway.
Nice. Conway Valley is nice. Obviously though, it's not as nice as the Ffestiniog Railway. The Ffestiniog Railway is just so unique. There's nothing else in the world like it.
Ffestiniog, a classic Welsh location,
I've been here
surrounded by
before as
mountains
well.
and woodland. Tourists affectionately refer to it as Little Switzerland.
There's even a railway museum in this area as well, basically. There it is, just over there.
The station must be counted as one of the successes of privatisation. The whole area has become a focal point, with both shops and restaurants, one of which extends right out onto the platform itself.
Yeah, this was released in 1997, but this footage was filmed in 1992, I think, before privatisation. Another time skip. More amazing music. I love the music that they keep playing in this documentary. You can see why this series has become nostalgic for a lot of people. There's only 5 minutes of battery left. I won't be able to let you guys hear the rewinding sound of this tape, because we're nearly at the end of the VHS anyway. There's only 5 minutes left.
Chester to Holyhead Main Line at Llandudno Junction. A major interchange.
Then it carries on to Llandudno Town.
Railway is actually called Llandudno Junction as well.
The town itself is called the town the stations are actually called Llandudno Junction. Well, that's interesting. Must be a railway town then.
It's just 3 miles from the junction to Llandudno itself. And the double-track branch line skirts the coastline of Conway Bay.
I have now also done the small branch to Llandudno Town. When I first went to Wales in 2014, me and my dad only did Llandudno Junction. Last time we went, we actually went into Llandudno itself. Llandudno. That is gorgeous, running alongside the sea there. That is so gorgeous. Llandudno.
The array of Victorian-style semaphore signals heralds our arrival at Llandudno itself, North
Lovely
Wales's most
town.
popular seaside town.
It's a very lovely town. Yeah, as we're at the end of the VHS review anyway, can't really be bothered to change the battery, just to let you guys hear like 1 minute of rewinding. This wouldn't be worth it. Just for like 5 minutes.
Unfortunately, the once grandiose railway station has fallen on hard times with the recent removal of the overall roof.
That shouldn't have happened. And some of the, 2 of the platforms have now been filled in. The bay has since been filled in with like tarmac, concrete or something. and no longer in use.
The Victorian seaside town nestles in a setting of outstanding natural beauty
That is
between the two
gorgeous.
sheltering headlands of the Great Orme and Little Orme, the former being well known for its cable-hauled
That shot of the Great Orme tramway, which me and my dad have been on,
The tramway and
was
its
also
cars
in the
opened
in
1902
the
and 1903. Beginning
in
with its
the,
own Victoria station, the trams start out over the
I think
public
that's
roads,
newer footage.
some as steep as
in the
1
Great
in 10,
Orme tramway. Me and my dad have also been on up at
in the space
Llandudno,
of just 1 mile,
and it's also where I got this guy from.
to a height of
Hello
650
everyone.
feet above
Yes,
sea level.
I do originate from Llandudno and
No wonder
the
so
summit
many
of the Great
visitors
Orme
to Wales
tramway.
feel on
I am from the gift shop at the top of there. Yeah, that's where I come from. Yeah. Chris Denning. Nice. Heard of it before. Yeah, but that is indeed where Samson originates from, guys. Llandudno. Driver's Eye View series, yeah, at least they credited them. Peter Middleton, he's a significant figure in the, he's a significant figure in, Video 125. And that's that. Well, that's it for this VHS review, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. I enjoyed reviewing this in the end. I really don't want to keep doing this series, though. So it will be coming to an end this year, as I said, and I promise very, very soon I'll order the final 4 VHSs that are going to be in this series before I end with the little engine that could, hopefully before the end of the year. Anyway, I've got to wrap up now because the battery's pretty much dead. Thank you all so much for watching, guys. Hope you all enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to me, Trainlover16, if you haven't already, to stay tuned for upcoming content. And also go follow me on Instagram and Blue Sky. Join my Discord server. Go and buy my novel, The Spy and the Superdog, if you haven't already. Check out my eBay profile as well. And I will see you all in my next video. Goodbye, everyone.